Yo, what's good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Knicks Weekly, episode 153. Let's get into it, man. We just wrapped up the entire Knicks season, all 82. That's what we do around here. And you know, I got my guy Dexter Henry from SNY, New York got game with me, so that way we can break down the regular season. And look, we got to preview this match between the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks, so stay locked in. Make sure that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. It's about to be another great episode, people. We got to put a bow on the season, so let's get into it, okay? Let's get it going. All right, I see people on the chat coming through. What's up, everybody? I see Jackson here, STG Nick, Kadeem. Who else we got? Jameson, what's good? We got Wise Guy in here. Vic from the Sty. We got the Dream is Real. Oh, is that Dream Israel? Dream Israel. All right, what up? Ray Nobleza, what's going on? Rambeezy. We got King Deej. Let's go, people. Thank you all for coming through, man. The resident DJ, Eric L. Beats for KFTV. Let's go, man. Let's get into this. Dexter, how you feeling today, bro? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm just happy that it's playoff time. That's what I'm happy about. This is one of my favorite times of the year. It's April. The weather's getting nice outside. Playoff basketball's here. The Knicks are in it, which is always dope. So, man, I'm good. How you doing, brother? You good?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. You know, I'm having a good time. But first and foremost, got a shout out to CP and Maria, aka the Knicks chick,
Yes.
for getting married yesterday, man. I was at their wedding yesterday, so congratulations to them. Awesome wedding. Vows were exchanged, the whole 9 yards, man. A lot of food. Apparently, this is a Long Island style wedding, so I got put on to what a Long Island style wedding is. You know, I gotta say it was just a great time, man. Got to see some really dope people. Got to see CP and Maria's families and friends, man, and it was just very touching, very real, just to hear all the stories that they shared. And you can sense that the love is real, man. The love is real. I'm just happy for CP and Maria. So God bless to them. Nothing but many well wishes to them. Yeah, man. So congratulations to CP and the Knicks chick, man. They're doing great, man.
Shout out to CP and Maria. Funny thing, I'll let people know. I had texted CP. I think this was last Thursday or Friday. We were just texting, and I was like, yo, I asked him if he could do something. We wanted to record something on Sunday, and he was like, nah, man, I'm getting married that day. And I knew this because he had told me the date, and I completely forgot the date. And I was laughing because it was just funny. Anyway, CP and I have something coming for the people a little later this week. But yeah, it was funny. I was like, Joe, you can skip that. It's good. You leave. Maria will be cool with it. But nah.
Yeah. You know.
All good. All good. Love to them both, man. I'm glad it was a beautiful day, and glad you got to be there and enjoy it. So two good friends. So happy for them both.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But I know that they want to hear about that. I know they're out there tapping in right now, listening to the show, man. They want to hear about the Knicks and how things are going to turn out. But before we get into the whole, postseason extravaganza, which we will get into later in this show, we got to put a wrap on the season, man. And just to start it off with, what'd you think about the season so far? Well, not so far, but what'd you think about the season in its entirety, Dex?
Yeah, it's funny, Alex. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was recording the latest episode of New York Got Game before I did it, and I was like, man, this season was a roller coaster because I remember the beginning of the season. I think there was so much excitement, but also a little bit of uncertainty from the fan base and people covering the team to start the season, because it was like, hey, this is undeniably going to be the most anticipated Knicks season in 30 years. They changed the coach. That was a very polarizing issue among the fan base, and even media members. I know I was fine with the change. I know there were media members, even my colleague Stephen Bondi, didn't think it was necessarily the best move. But look, we knew that all the stuff with Mike Brown is going to come down to where we are now. He's going to be judged now. But through the season, me personally, watching this season, I thought Mike Brown in particular did a good job managing this team. I liked how he managed the lineups. I was a big fan of that. I liked how malleable he was with changing things for the team, particularly when they had that stretch in January when it went 2-9, and we all know how ugly that was. And I was there for some of those games, including that Martin Luther King Day massacre to the Mavericks. It looked bad then, but he made adjustments with the team, listened to his team. They adjusted on defense. So when I look back at the season and the roller coaster ride it was, and I think for a lot of us who watch this team every day, the team that wasn't always engaged, Alex, it felt sometimes disjointed. Like And some of it was like, look, they're just trying to go through the motions to get back to where they were last year. And I get that. I think sometimes as fans and media members, we look at it and we're like, man, they should have more oomph and have the pedal to the metal all the way through the season. But I think sometimes it's just human nature. You're gonna have times where you let your foot off the gas. I think that happened with this team. I do think this team is gonna lock in now. But I think when I look back at this season, I think the process of where this team is now, as opposed to where they were last year, is a lot better. I remember, I think it was one of the watch parties you guys had last year, and I remember talking to you and JD, and it was a Cavs game. They got their ass beat by the Cavs, and it was just like this. We're talking. It's like another time where it's like, man, they can't beat anybody good. Well, we've seen the Knicks beat good teams this year. We've seen disappointing moments this year too, and I understand that. But I think the process of where they got and how they've sort of figured out their identity towards the end of the season, because I really liked how they played in the last week. I think Knicks fans should be encouraged about that. The process, the way the two-man game looked with Brunson and Cat.
Hmm.
I thought that stuff looked really good for them. So when I look at this season, overall, I think it was a roller coaster ride, like I said, to put it in that way. But I really actually believe this. I think the Knicks are more prepared for the postseason this time than they were last year. Now, it's crazy to say because last year they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think this year I just feel a little bit more confident about this team. Doesn't mean there still aren't question marks because I got some questions.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, but I think this team is better prepared for the postseason. So I think when Knicks fans look back at this, they should retroactively look at it and say, you know what? I know it wasn't the way we wanted. Maybe we would have wanted some more wins. It'd been nice if they had 60 wins. I think the real thing you probably are mad at the season, you didn't like how they looked against the Pistons. And that's fair. They didn't look
Yeah.
good against the Pistons, right? The Pistons gave it to them 3 times. We'll see if they can get some payback in the playoffs. But I think overall, you got to say this was a really good season.
I agree with you, Dex. I think it was a really good season. Look, you can't scoff at getting over 50 wins any single time, especially where this franchise has been throughout the last 20 years. Like getting to 50 wins not consecutively, but in 3 years back to back to
Years.
back. You
Yeah.
you gotta love the process. What Leon Rose has been able to build and accomplish here with this franchise, right? And up until this point, it's all been good. Now, as you mentioned, there are questions about this team that I still have. But
Mhm.
I think when you look at this season in its entirety, I like that they went through adversity. Even for the frustrating moments that they had, I do like that they went through adversity because nothing's ever easy, whether it's in the game of basketball, going through 82 game regular season, or in life. And when you go
X.
through adversity and you fail, that's when you learn, you grow, and you get better. And if they just had an easy, if they had an easy route, if they just won games naturally. And it was like they were just overpowering people, and you never had to face adversity. You never had to understand how to lose or how to adjust. Then you might not be as well prepared as you're saying for this postseason run. So even with the 9 games that they lost in January, right? Even with the disappointing losses, even that 7 game winning streak where they were barely beating bad teams, and then they go on a 3 game losing streak, losing to good teams like Houston,
Mhm.
OKC. Those entire 10 games right there, you're like, who is this team? Like, there's like, yes, it's always good to win, but you didn't really walk away feeling happy. Like, I didn't walk away feeling happy because I was like, are we just going to do the same thing? Just be a team that takes it lax all the way to the postseason and then believes
Mhm.
that we can turn it on. And last year we saw what talent was able to do and take this thing to the distance, right? I didn't believe that under Tom Thibodeau, that they had a very good approach to how they handled every single series, but talent won out. And unfortunately, the flame went out at the end when they faced the Indiana Pacers. To
Ugh.
your point, I think this season, I think they're more well equipped, especially with the depth that they have for their bench
Yep.
and through the adversity they had to go through this season. And to your point, mentioning how we're seeing a Brunson Cat 2-man game to go with the Brunson Hart 2-man game, just adding more wrinkles and layers to what this offense can be late into the season. I'm liking what they were hiding, right? To now
Mhm.
what you could potentially do and not have enough footage, right? Because I'll say this. I like that they are holding it back because if you have an entire season of footage of like what the 2-man game looks like, you can get ready for that. And now to do that on the fly during the postseason where you're trying to stay focused, you get very little time in between, and then you have to adapt to it. there's not a lot of time as, oh, we got 82 games. We got a lot of film. We know what they like to do, and we can go really weak with this thing. We can send to our video guys down in the basement, and they can really comb through that stuff and really see what they like to do to get to these sets. With that being hidden, I like it. I do think though that there was some I did get word that during January that there was some stuff that Mike Brown tried to implement. The guys weren't feeling it too much. Obviously, we know at the beginning of the season, Cat didn't understand his role, what he wanted to do. I
Hmm.
think we didn't see that two-man game, not only because Mike Brown wanted to hide it, but I thought guys were just like, they weren't thrilled with their roles, and they're like, I don't want to do this, man. I just want to play the way I want to play. And it was just kind of like trying to fit a square peg through a round hole, trying to get things working, even though they had the talent and they were able to do it. Felt like that was at the beginning. But to this point, I do like what I saw from them this season, and you just got to be encouraged what we saw the last couple of games going into this postseason. So I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I think so, and I like the way I think the way you're talking about it, Alex, is um, the way we have to look at seasons and the way this team is, particularly in year two of this core group, and I mean now this group with Cat and Mikal, as part of the core. I think fans sometimes think things are going to click very quickly, and even in this season, you bring up a really good point about the time in January. I heard some of the same things about Mike Brown trying to change some things. There was some resistance, and I think some people may hear that and think that that's a problem. And it's like, no, this happens sometimes in groups or teams and workplaces. People trying to get to a point where they're trying to accomplish something good as a team. It's hard. It's a process. The process isn't always smooth. Progress isn't always linear. Sometimes it's going to be more up and down, right? It's going to be like this. And I think that's what we saw with this Knicks season. And I hope that, I think as sports fans, sometimes we want it to all be easy. And it's not like that. I think another good word you used was adversity. The Knicks needed to go through all the adversity they went through this year, particularly what happened in January. I think we should probably be applauding more the fact that they went through all that in January, came back out on the other side of it. The defense got markedly better. The defense was trash in January. And then, they finished as a top 10 defense. That's huge. And I've been saying this from the start of the year. We know what this team could do offensively. And I still think there's times offensively they can reach even another level.
Oh, for sure.
But, right, we know this. We've seen this team when they're on, especially when they're hitting their threes. Defensively was always a question to me. I said if they could get between 8 to 10 in defense, which they did, I thought they'd have a legitimate shot to win a championship. And I still feel that way about this Knicks team. I think they have a legitimate shot to win a championship. The process has not been maybe as smooth as everybody would like, but I think at the end, and I also got to credit Mike Brown on this too. I like the fact he held that stuff back. I love it. I love that he held the stuff back with the two-man game, and you only really saw it in the last week. There's probably still more wrinkles to it that we have yet to see. They're going to come out in the playoffs, and these guys have been working on it all season. Now you got to see it in some game action. I think to your point, you don't want to make it easy for teams to game plan against. I think you also want to be the kind of coach. The thing I like about Mike Brown is he's been more malleable in, okay, if I know this data, I know this lineup works, I'm going to play this guy and see what's going on. And I hope, because he could change on us, I hope we see that in the playoffs where if there's a situation to throw in a Muhammad Diawara, right, or you want to throw in a Jose Alvarado, that he'll put him in there. We don't want it to be like the Pacers series we saw last year where Tom Thibodeau was until game 4 and he decides, okay, let me play DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet. It's like it was too late then. I like the fact, way too late. I like the fact that Mike Brown through the season has used guys and given guys opportunities. You can't play everybody, but in a playoff game, if you're willing to go, as he likes to say, 9.5, I think that's a good thing for this team. You don't want to be rigid to the 8 all the time. Some games maybe you play a 10th guy. It's fine. And then look at Jordan Clarkson. I think he's a shining example of just the malleability. This guy who fell out the rotation, was not playing good defense, and has reinvented his game. Now Jordan Clarkson is giving effort on D. He's being that secondary shot creator you need off the bench. And I think Jordan Clarkson is going to be huge for the Knicks in this postseason. I think there's a game or two that he could win for this team, even in limited minutes where he's really going to help. So I say all that to say is I'm not saying the Knicks are going to go all the way and win. I'm not making any bold predictions here. I'm just saying sometimes you got to, as a fan, you got to be a little patient and enjoy the process. I don't know what the process is going to yield, but I like the fact that there was more experimentation this year. There was more malleability, as I said. There was more opportunities to figure things out, and the team looks completely different. When we thought it was high, Alex, at NBA Cup, when the Knicks beat the Spurs and Knicks fans was on their high, and it was like, oh man, this is great. And then they cratered down in January, and then it came back up. There's a process. They had to learn a lot about themselves. And so, what a season. I know it wasn't fun all the time. There were some days you're doing shows and you're like, man, I got to talk about the Knicks again. They don't look good. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I
Nah,
get it.
there's some look,
I get
man.
it.
There's some days where you're like, wow, what are you going to talk about today? Especially when it's like
Right.
especially the month of January, and then when you got
Ooh.
to look at two losses to the Pistons in the same month, and you're like, whoo, and not just any losses, but like belt to ass type losses, man.
Yeah, belt
That's
to
when
ass
you
type
got when you
losses.
got to talk about those type of losses. It makes things a little bit more difficult. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning for another Knicks Weekly episode 153. With me on the other side is my guy Dexter Henry. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I see the rhyme animal Chuck D is in here with us. Shout out to Chuck, man. Throw a hashtag PE in the chat, man. Throw a hashtag PE in the chat. All right. Now, Dex, some of the stuff that you were saying at the end of what you were talking about at the end,
Yeah.
I want to add that to my next topic, which is what have you learned about from this team from the season? And the adaptability is definitely one of the things that I've learned from this team this season. And I got to give credit to Mike Brown on that, as you already mentioned, just because we saw that last season. And this is, I feel like when people hear when you talk about differences between coaches, it's always putting down a coach. I'm not putting
Hmm.
down a coach for when Tibbs was here. I appreciate what he did. I like what he did. I was a Tibbs defender last season. There's like, as a fan, even as players, a coach can wear on you at times. And you got to see something change, especially when you know what's going to happen day in and day out, and you know that something's got to change in order to get you from point A to point B, and point B being an NBA Finals and hopefully a championship, right? So going to Mike Brown and seeing that he's flexible with these rotations and willing to go back to guys who he's put on the shelf, like a Jordan Clarkson, like a guy like Tyler Kolek. Like that's something that I love to see, just because what you want to see in the postseason, what I want to see in the postseason. There's going to be matchups that, hey, let's say they get past Atlanta, you get Boston in the second round. I think Alvarado would be a good guy to go against Pritchard to make him a little bit more aggravating. Dennis Jenkins. If they get even to the ECF and you got to beat the Detroit Pistons, if you're trying to think that far ahead, I don't want to see Tyler Kolek because Dennis Jenkins is just own Tyler Kolek, but
Oh,
Alvarado would be a guy that would match that intensity and might actually stop Dennis Jenkins, right? And that's the thought process where maybe Mike Brown says, I know what he's done to him during the regular season. I might not get the 3-point shooting, but I'm going to get that aggravator that will throw this guy off his rock. And now we're back to square one for the Detroit Pistons, having one creator, and that's the mind game that you got to play at times when you get into these playoff series, because while you do have talent, you got to take every single bit of an advantage that you can get into the mental of the player as well, being one of them. So I think from this season, definitely what I've learned is that Mike Brown is more than happy to. I think he will do it in the postseason. I think just because you see Jordan Clarkson right now and the rotation being, the five that we already know. The guys coming off the bench would be Mitch, Deuce, Clarkson, and Shamit. Like, I think even that while that is set, I think we will
right.
see guys coming right back. I think you will see a Mohamed Diawara. I think you will see a Jose Alvarado. Hell, you might even see a Tyler Kolek if you want to give Brunson even more leeway to just go be a guy working off ball. Might not be likely, but I think because of his defense and his offensive limitations, but I think you might get a Kolek. I mean, you can't forget what he did during the in-season tournament and how he was critical
Yeah.
against the Spurs.
Yeah.
So I think from one of the things that I've liked and what I've learned about this team is that never count anybody out of this rotation. Don't
Mm,
count anybody out. And that's something
mm,
I definitely have learned about this team. And I think the last thing too is that even though we talk about, does this team have a dog and a fight and a thing in them? Spoelstra said it, and I was thinking about it coming on the show, because there were moments where I was thinking that Spoelstra said this is a team that doesn't die, right? Like it's a never
yep.
quit team. And I'm like, during the season, like some of these games, like even against Detroit, where they just gave up, and you could see them visibly give up. Even the adversity they've went through, that's a never quit team. They even with all the stuff, whether it's McCall having his woes, OG having like shooting woes, Brunson going through his shooting woes, like where the defense was looking good and the offense was just stagnant, they never gave up and they continue to try to figure it out. So those are two things right there, man, that I've learned about this team from this season.
Yeah. I think for me, Alex, biggest thing is, yeah, it's going to be Mike Brown showed me why and I want to go back to something you said early. I am the same way. I feel like anytime we talk about Mike Brown, we have to always be like, man, I'm not trying to be out here stepping on Tom Thibodeau, right? Like, this is not what we're doing. And I'm not doing that either. I think there's a way we can talk about Mike Brown without having to put down Tom Thibodeau. And so I'm with you on that. I think Tom Thibodeau did great things for this organization. And I think if you're a Knicks fan, you should be grateful for what Tom Thibodeau did to take this organization to where it did. Sometimes, and I'm not wishing this for Tom Thibodeau, sometimes there's some coaches that take you to a certain point, and that's where they take you. I thought the Knicks front office and management recognized when they looked at last year's playoffs, they used this word. I'm going to say this because they used it a lot, and you heard Mike Brown use it a lot in his introductory press conference, collaborative. I think that word, along with adaptability, malleability, whatever you want to call him, being more pragmatic, I think that's what I learned about Mike Brown. I think Mike Brown is a coach who's learned a lot from all his different stops in his journey, his process. And I think that's coming to be applied very well with the Knicks. And I think you saw it, as you said, throughout the season. You sound like me, Alex, where you believe that I'd be stunned if Mike Brown didn't make adjustments through the postseason. I think there are times he'll make a move, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But I don't think he's going to be afraid to do it. And I think that matters. I think the fact this season, not to be all minutes police on this, but the minutes were down for the starters. The starters, I think, are fresher going into the playoffs. I think bench guys on here have gotten more experience. Even like you said, a Tyler Kolek. Maybe we see Tyler Kolek in 2 playoff games this whole run. Who knows? Maybe we don't see him a lot. But the fact that he got run during the season, it helped with his development. He was big in the NBA Cup, as you mentioned, NBA Cup, through the NBA Cup run, through the NBA Cup final against the Spurs. He was huge there. I think all that stuff matters. I think all the minutes Mohamed Diawara got this year matters. Can he count on a rookie that much in the playoffs? I don't know. But I think if there's a spot for him to play in a good matchup, Boston's another matchup I think where you could see some Mohamed Diawara, especially if Joe Mazzulla goes to hack a Mitch. Yeah, I think Mike Brown will say, all right, come on, Rook, get off the bench, let's go. But these guys have gotten the time. If you guys don't get the guys don't get the time, then they can't be ready to go. And so I think that's the biggest thing I learned about the Knicks is that they're willing to be adaptable this season, at least their head coaches, and that you used the word that they never gave up. I think resilience is another good word for them. There is some resilience with them. And I think the biggest thing that I learned, especially towards the end of the season, and I want to highlight particularly Cat, because we knew from the beginning of the season, Cat was like, and after media, it was 2 days, I think, in training camp. Yeah, a couple days after media day, he's like, I don't know what my role is in this offense, right? And all of us are like, that doesn't sound good. What's this going to be? Cat doesn't know his role in the offense. Mike Brown's supposed to be implementing this new offense. He's frustrated. I think we got to give Cat a measure of credit. And I've been critical of Cat for his play, and we know how talented he is because a lot of times we'll see the barrel into the basket. He leads the league in offensive fouls, the stupid fouls he picks up. And from the time they traded for him, I said, hey, the key with Cat is he going to be able to stay on the floor and be available when the Knicks need him the most in the playoffs? Now, what we saw in the second half of the season, from that first Pistons game after the All-Star break on, we saw Cat cut down on his fouls. This is the low. This is not. It has not been a good offensive year from overall. Lowest shooting percentage from the field and at the rim of his career, and from 3 that he shot in his career. So it's been a down year shooting the ball for Cat. But in the second half of the season, I thought he played more within rhythm. I thought he played more under control. I thought he played more within himself. I thought he bought it really into the offense. He became a better passer. He wasn't forcing things. For me, with Cat, it's not all about the shot attempts. I know some people like to get into that and like feed the Cat the ball more. He's got to shoot more in the post. I think if he plays well in the offense, I thought one of the best games he played all season was that game last Monday, a week ago against Atlanta. Loved how he played in that game and punished the Hawks, and I expect him to do some similar things in the series. I'm sure we'll get to that. But I think he's an example of what a process looks like and just sticking with it. All right, you don't love something at first, this isn't working for you, but I'm going to stick with the process. Cat, I think all these guys, I think what we learned is they want to win. They want to win here. I've never questioned the heart on this team. I've never questioned their desire to want to win. Even in the losses against Detroit, I think that they want to win. I think they're just anxious to get back to this playoffs. So I think you learned that this team, they want it. They want to go through the valleys, through the ups and downs. I think we learned that Cat, when he plays within himself, can be good. I think we also learned that Mikal Bridges needs to be more consistent. But I mean, I don't know if we learned that because we've kind of known that for a while. So,
Oh man.
yeah, and I think that's a frustrating thing that we saw because we've seen highs from him. Um, Maybe the best game I'm trying to think. What's my favorite? What's the best Bridges game this year? Oh, the Spurs game at the beginning of March,
Yeah.
where he was fantastic. He had 5 steals in that game, and I was at that game at the Garden. He was fantastic in that game. Sometimes you're like, I don't need that game all the time, but can you put stretches like that together? Like, for example, I thought Mikal was very good in the past week too. I thought he was great against Boston. I thought he
Mhm.
was fantastic. I thought he was huge in that first half against Atlanta in how he played. I think we've still learned the highs with Mikal can be really good. Can you get him to be a little bit more consistent, especially in the playoffs, because they're going to need him big time. So I still think we learned that Brunson is the engine, right? I know some people have their feelings about that in different ways, but we
No,
know
of course.
Brunson can make things go. We've learned that Cat, I think, can hope he's got to do it in the playoffs, but he can play under control and be the complement to Brunson that he needs. Now it's everybody else going to come along? Because I think what's going to matter in the playoffs is we know how good of a closer Brunson is, and that's been proven again and again. But the big question is like, okay, is everybody else going to do what they're supposed to do? To come along with him, to make his life a little bit easier. And that's one of the big questions I have. But I think we learned a lot, man. And I think one of the things for me is malleability, the resilience we saw this year, and Cat's development when he cuts down on the stupid fouls is a huge thing for this team.
For sure. And I'll add this for the cat conversation before we keep this thing moving along is that, I mentioned this on the last post game, uh, that Towns has been averaging, and this is through the last 4 games now.
Mm-hmm.
He was averaging 20 points, just shy under 20 points in 30 minutes per game, shooting 65% from the field, 36% from downtown, 93% from the free throw line, getting to the line about 3.5 attempts per game, getting you now over 11 boards, 6.5 assists, and 1 steal per game. The guy has been active. And on top of that, his personal fouls is down to 2.8. So he's not giving you the dumb fouls. He's not doing the stupid hooking on offense when he's driving. He's not just like using his hands to play defense. He's using his feet. He's staying upright. He's putting his hands up tall, and then on top of that, when you saw him through the last couple of games, Mike Brown is utilizing him as a hub. We talked about the whole Mike Brown wants to use him like Domantas Sabonis. He's not playing like Domantas Sabonis, but what he's added to Cat's game is saying, hey, you're going to do some DHOs. You're going to work the high post. You're going to find guys cutting. You're going to get some bounce pass, pocket passes. You're going to get guys involved. That by doing that, it will also get you involved. If you buy in and do all these things, you'll start to see it come around. And through the last 4 games, which is really where we're looking at right here, the sample
Mm-hmm.
size, it start to come around. And if he continues to play like this, and I got questions for that too, because it's nice to watch go against teams that don't really have a legit center like against Boston and Atlanta. When you got to play teams that play rough and gritty, are you going
Right,
to be
right.
doing the same thing? Because you can't shy away and do that, man. You cannot shy away and do that. Salute to Knicks Nation, man. Thank you all for tuning for another Knicks Weekly episode 153. We're recapping the season here with my guy Dexter Henry of of the New York Post. Whoa, almost forgot. You got to split, man. You got of the New York
I
Post.
know. I know. I feel like sometimes everybody forgets that. No bad feelings. Shout out to my
No bad.
people.
I'm
Don't
not
mind.
saying it's bad
It's
feelings,
not
but
like that.
it's,
But
it's
sometimes we
ingrained in
got to
the head
introduce them.
sometimes, man.
Yeah, and I don't even correct people sometimes because I get it because we were there with our partnership for so long. So I get it. It's fine. You're good, man.
But you can find him over at the New York Post, New York Got Game. He covers the Liberty, he covers the Mets, so make sure to go check him out, man. He does phenomenal work, all right? And let me tell you who also does phenomenal work when you need it. Harry's, okay? Let me tell you something a little about Harry's. Look, people, when you need to get to a close shave, you want to look good, you want to go out there, it's getting warm out, as Dexter said. Look, okay, you can't be looking like a woolly mammoth out there. Can't be having your beard looking all crazy. Harry's is where they come through to come help you. So I've tried pretty much every razor under the sun, okay? Some dull too fast, all right? Some irritate your skin. Others are overpriced for no reason whatsoever. That's why I switched to Harry's, okay? And honestly, this has been the best shaving experience I've ever had. Right away, you notice the weighted metal handle. It's solid, it's balanced, it feels like something's actually built well. The blades are German engineered, so each one is honed at 3 angles so that way it cuts clean without tugging. And the pivoting system, it actually works. So it gets around the jawline, under the chin, all the tricky spots without clogging like those drugstore blades. Plus, Harry's owns their own blade factory. No middleman, no markups. They keep it affordable while making a razor that feels premium. Right now, you can get Harry's Plus trial set for only $10. That's the new razor, a 5-blade cartridge, shave gel, and a travel cover. Head over to harrys.com/KFTV to claim yours. That's harrys.com/KFTV. Look sharp, feel sharp. You're going to like this one. All right, let's keep this thing rolling, Dex. Let's keep this thing rolling. Look, there's a lot of things to love about the season, man. A lot of things to love about the season.
Yeah.
But there's also some things that we wish we would see some more of. Some things we got to file our grievances. Okay, it's like any job, man. You got to file your grievances and be like, hey, man, why can't we do this? Why can't we make this better? Okay. So, is there anything that you saw this season? I think I know what direction you're going. That you could have seen a little bit more out of. That you want to say, hey, could we do better?
Yeah. One I already mentioned in Mikal Bridges, but I will.
You're gonna save him. You're not gonna belabor the point there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna belabor the point there. I'm not gonna do that. Like the inconsistency at times. I'll say one more thing on that. I think not to just rag on Mikal, but I think the thing for me that's a little frustrating sometimes with his game is his lack of ability to get to the line. That's really frustrating for me. It's a lot of, I'm gonna get in, fade away, and his free throw rate has declined since the Knicks have got him from Brooklyn. I like to see some of that a little bit more. But I think if there's another thing that frustrated me this season, and I get how it's going to be their grievance they're going to pull out here, but it's how the Knicks responded in the Pistons games. Particularly for me, that last game against the Pistons. The first game out of the All-Star break, you know what the Pistons did to you the first couple of times. And in that game, from the second quarter on, they just punked you the rest of the way. I didn't like that. I didn't like it.
No, there's nothing to like about that, man.
You want to see there was no fight back for me. Now,
exactly.
Shout out to my man Gerard Hector, who was on New York Got Game with me this week. He said, look, the Pistons, you could tell in those games, based on what happened last year, they got the want to. They wanted to bring it to the Knicks. They were hungry because the Knicks bounced them in 6 games and all that. We know that. But for me, I was disappointed in not seeing, especially when it was at the Garden on your home court. Come on, man, you gotta fight back. Now, here's what I can say: we saw this last year as people who cover the Knicks, watch the Knicks. The Knicks were 0-4 against the Cavs. They were 0-4 against the Celtics. They are now 0-3 this year against the Pistons. I'm not saying nothing in the regular season matters. What I will say is the Knicks have experience. If they see the Pistons, which will be in the conference finals, I'm not going to say my prediction that I have for that series yet, but what I will say is the Knicks very well are going to have to, and will have to show that fight back and that want to. And they should be pissed off about what the Pistons did to them this season. They should be pissed off about it.
Absolutely.
And they should want to do something about it, right? And look, credit the Pistons. Played hard, young, hungry team. Didn't like that they got bounced last year. Felt like they had something to show. And at the top of the East, dope. It's what we want in NBA basketball. You expect the Pistons to come with that energy. What I didn't like was the Knicks not fighting back and showing some oomph, standing up for something. I didn't like that. So they have to show me that when they get punched in the mouth, particularly early in a game, Alex, you got to show me that you're going to fight back. Now, as of late, the last week or so of the season, I thought they were better off starting games, even if they weren't out to a big lead after the first quarter. But even if a team jumped on them, they fought right back. That's more of what I want to see in the playoffs. I thought that wasn't always there through the season, and that was really disappointing to me. I think that was one of the things disappointing me. Like they had resilience at times. I know we credited them, and Eric Spoelstra, arguably the best coach in the league, credited them with fighting it. Some point in the season felt like they lost it. I know we could particularly talk about January, and then there's other times where it looked great. And I think that's the frustration for the Knicks fan overall with this season. As much as we think it was good and there was a lot of good things to take from it, the frustration was like, man, sometimes this team could look like amazing. You'll think of the games against the Spurs, the 2 games they won against the Spurs. Should have won 3 because they should have won that game on New Year's Eve when they blew that lead. Should have won that. You think about the early March game against the Nuggets. Both games against the Nuggets, the double overtime game they won against the Nuggets in the Garden. You think about that comeback of the Rockets. You think about things where it's like they showed you all these things, the fight, the resiliency. They could be then dominant at one time and they look like a great two-way team. And then other times you see what you saw Martin Luther King Day against the Mavericks, and you're like, yo, what is this team? What's going on here? Um, so that's my thing. I think it's the inconsistency that we saw at times. And I think what we all know as people is smart New Yorkers that we are, we know in the playoffs, you're gonna have to bring that consistency. You're also going to have to bring that intensity. My eyes tell me, and looking at the numbers and everything and covering this team, I know this is a damn good team. You know it. We've seen moments where it is. Is will they be consistent when it comes to the playoffs? And it's not just on one player or any one player. It's on everybody on the whole team. So for me, it was, man, there was frustrations in fight back against Detroit and then lack of consistency on both ends of the ball, particularly on defense throughout the season.
Okay, I like that. I like that, and definitely with Detroit, especially where you want to see them bounce back. I definitely do agree with that. For me, Dex, though, I think the
Yeah,
biggest thing that bothers me is that we have not really solved the playmaking issue with the second unit, and
that's a good one.
it's really by committee. And look, even with the improvement of Tyler Kolek this season from
Hmm.
summer league, because I was out there with summer league. Me, CK, CP, Maria, we were all out there in summer league. We were watching Cole, and we're like, and that was the first time I saw Dennis Jenkins, St. John's product, and I'm just like, yo, this guy is trying to make it in the league, and you are getting
But
handled.
yeah,
Cook is being nice. The man got handled, okay? The
yeah,
man
I
got
remember.
handled.
I remember.
And it was
Hmm.
like, sheesh. Like, do we even have like what are we gonna do for the backup point guard position? It wasn't just like that. That position was the only issue. It was we need another wing, we need another center, right? Those are like the real 3 big talking points. We got the wing in Mohamed Diawara, which I'm fine with how he's progressed as a rookie and just adding more depth there. But definitely the playmaking because look, on the season, just so everyone knows, the Knicks rank with the season now regular season now over. Knicks finished 13th in assists, averaging 27.4 assists per game. When it comes down to measuring the bench unit averages 8.4, 8.4 assists per game. That means 19 of your assists is done with primarily the starters. So when we get to that second unit, right, it's just like it's just hard. It comes to like to a grinding halt at times, and you need either Jose Alvarado, you need Kolek out there, you need Clarkson, you need Josh, you need like a plethora of guys who are willing to move the rock around. Even Cat when he's with the second unit now and what he's shown, you need it's a playmaking by committee, which to me it's nice to see them sharing the rock as it should be because you want to create diversity in your offense. You want to keep the defenses on their heels where they have no idea who's going to be the next person scoring. Nevertheless, to me, when I look at assists, it's not just purely like a point guard only thing. It's a how do we get somebody set up type of thing, and do we have a legitimate playmaker? And we
Hmm.
don't have a legitimate playmaker with that second unit, and that's probably like my biggest concern going into the postseason is like, how are we going to manage that? Like if let's say Clarkson's having one of his bad games, you go to Alvarado and he's not having it. Where are you going to afterwards after that? Are we just expending Jalen Brunson? That's the benefit why you have the deep bench during the regular season to save him for moments like this. But as you go through the postseason, it gets more physical. Fouls aren't going to be called as much. Gets more taxing on the body. You still want somebody that can come off the bench and set the offense up. And with Kolek struggles, I'm not sure like how much playing time he can get out there, how much time Mike Brown is willing to leave him out there just for defensive liability purposes. So that's honestly one of my biggest things with this team is how are you going to continue to generate good looks with that second unit? Because we even see whether it's just Cat and Bridges out there, and that's you can even tie us back into Bridges because we've seen him do that in
Hmm.
Brooklyn when given that opportunity. Who's
Hmm.
going to be that offensive guy as a creator, playmaker that can just like calm the entire second unit down and take it to another level. I know Cat's going to be featured, but who's going to, handle the rock and do all that work to get into that situation?
I just wanted to say, because I think you bring up this good point about the lack of playmaking / assist off the bench, and I think what masks some of that for the Knicks is because they have Mitch, and Mitch is such a good offensive rebounder, and the team overall, their offensive rebounding percentage, according to Cleaning the Glass site I like to look at, they're sixth in offensive rebounding percentage, right? And I think that massive, it doesn't mean that I agree with you. What you're saying, Alex, is a problem. But I think what masks them and how they're able to generate this, the second chance they're able to get. Mitch is so good at getting the board, kicking it out. And the Knicks do a really good job. Shamit, Deuce off the bench, guys who know how to get to their spots very quickly and get ready for Mitch when he gets the ball back out to them. I think that masks some of the problems because that's how the Knicks are so good offensively. They're one of the better rebounding teams. They're pretty good in their points per possession in terms of half-court play. So that's kind of masked. But I think the reason why I think you're concerned, just to even further break it down for the fans, is, Alex, you know this. We all know this. When you get to the playoffs, everything slows down, right? Those numbers are a little inflated when you're playing the Wizards and the Nets or the Jazz or the Kings,
Right.
all those teams, right? Because I would love to, actually, I haven't done this, so my apologies to me, but further crunch those numbers, the offensive rebounding percentage when you're going up against playoff level teams, or even, dare I say, elite level teams, let's say top 4 in each conference and above, right? Like, what's the Knicks numbers there? Because those are teams that are going to limit those second chance opportunities. That's why when you look at the Knicks bench numbers, overall, it's not that bad. But to your point, when the game slows down and maybe you get into a game where a team does a good job of putting bodies on Mitch and he doesn't get as many offensive rebounds, how are you then going to generate those shots? That is my question. I think there's a reason why it hasn't looked terrible during the regular season, and granted, opponents matter in that too, but I think a lot of it is their offensive rebounding rate. Now, look, if the Knicks can offensive rebound at a 32% rate, like I said, in the
Yeah.
playoffs, it's going to help them win a lot of games.
Yeah, for sure.
But to your point, what happens if that's not going down, right? Like if that's not happening, then who's going to be able to create those shots for you? Kolik's a guy who can do that because of his passing ability, but do you trust him to defense? On the defensive end and to stop whoever else he's guarding, or he looks like he was against Dennis Jenkins in Summer League. You don't want that.
No, you don't want that at all.
Yeah.
Don't want that at all. But that's a great point about the offensive rebounding and Mitch. And, it's a great angle to talk about. Like, hey, Mitch Mitch covers a lot of things, man. Defensively, offensively,
A lot of things.
That man, let me tell you something. You paying him this offseason?
Yo. This is I know people are gonna think this is crazy. I don't know.
Oh my God.
No, and it's crazy. I was texting who was I talking to about this? Shout out to the homie Skyzoo. Skyzoo's having surgery tomorrow. Shout out to the homie Skyzoo. We were talking about this, and he had asked me the same thing, and I was like, I don't know. And the reason, this is going to be crazy, I don't know because of the Diawara situation, and the Knicks are going to have to do some cap flexibility and maybe move some people this summer that they don't want to lose. Here's my thing, man. I think so much of it depends on what happens during this playoff run. I'm like, ask me at the end of this playoff run because my answer might be different. The reason I don't know, Alex, and I know it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of the mouth. I just talked about how valuable he is on the offensive rebounding and all that. The problem, I think, is, are you going to tell me that going forward? I'm just telling you guys how front office is going to think when they sit down with him and his agent. Mitch is going to want a number, and Mitch wants to get the bag, and I understand all that. But they're also going to look at him and say, but you only play half the games. You want me to pay you like you're a high-level center, and he is a high-level offensive rebounding center. He is elite defensively. We know all that, but you play half the games. And do we want to invest that much into a rim-running center who's the best offensive rebounder in the league, who is one of the best defensive centers in the league, but we don't know if we're going to get more than 52 games from you in a year? That's fair. That brings his price down. And so that's the thing when it comes down for me is like, what price are you getting Mitch at? What percentage of the cap is he going to take? Is he the guy you're going to pay that's going to put you into the second apron? Now, if you win, completely different thing. You're going to bring him back because it's like you got to pay to run that back. If you don't win, and depending on where you lose, and I'm not going to mention that person that plays in Milwaukee's name that is likely going to come up in trade rumors and all that stuff, you're going to have to start thinking a little bit more about the finances. So for me, it's kind of a wait and see. Again, when you look at the numbers and the impact, I know it's a no-brainer. You're like, yeah, you got to go. You got to pay Mitch. You got to be crazy, Dex, if you don't want to pay Mitch. I hear you. It's a little more. It's a little bit more complicated, and I think it's going to be about how it impacts winning. I also am. I'm generally hesitant on paying the rim running centers and investing a lot of money into the center position, as the Knicks then would have with him and Cat. Cat was going to want an extension too. That's where I'm like a little bit worried. But it's good. He's a hard person to replace. I don't want to act like it's. I'm not trying to say you can just go draft another Mitch. You can draft a lot of rim running centers, but can they do what Mitch can do? I don't know. Right? I think it's going to be a lot about the Knicks long term. I don't think it's a no brainer. I think it really comes down to what Mitch wants. He's going to want a pay raise, and he probably does deserve it. But how much of a pay raise and what percentage of the cap is that going to be?
Well,
what about you, Alex? No brainer. You signing him. You giving him the bag, giving him whatever he wants.
I'm not giving him whatever he wants now. Let's keep that within reason. But I am doing my best to retain him and keep him this offseason, man. Just because, I mean, just the offensive rebounding in general, like the rim protection, the ability to guard the pick and roll, a switchable center where, look, I mean, we talk about him being a deterrent or at the rim. The man's a deterrent on the perimeter too. I mean, let's not forget what he did. Who was it against? Who was it that they played recently? It was against Boston, where he gets the block, dives, gets it to McBride. McBride gets it to who was it? Clarkson for the finish, the easy finish. Like stuff like that is what the intangibles that you want to see from Mitch. And I know you're talking about he's played half the season. I mean, the man did play 60. He did play 60 games.
I know. I was being a little tiny.
I know he's being a little facetious, but I'm just saying, you know, if he plays 5 more games, my man could be now voted for awards now. So then, you know, if he could be voted for awards,
we should also credit. And I was a little skeptical, and I remember talking days before game 1, talking with Stephen Bondi about this. You know, I was kind of wondering, like, you know, remember in the preseason, he's played the first 2 games. He played in Philly and Abu Dhabi, and then we didn't see him like the last 3 preseason games, and everybody was like, "What's going on with that?"
Either. Yeah,
right. And it was like, "What's going on?" Mike Brown wasn't telling us whether or not it was an injury, and then you know you heard things and you found out, okay, his agent was having a lot of say in this and talking to the Knicks and how they wanted to manage the injury, and Steph reported that. I was a little concerned about that, like how they were going to manage it. But when I looked through the season and how the Knicks managed Mr. Robinson, I'm actually pretty pleased with how they managed him. And you saw how effective he was towards the end of the season when the Knicks were playing less back-to-backs. And there were only a few back-to-backs left. You know, we really talk about it after, what was the Knicks' last back-to-back of the season, right? It was, they played a back-to-back when it was like, Bulls game, Charlotte? No, who did play for the Bulls? I'm forgetting who that was.
Let me take a look back. Give me 1 second. Who was?
But their back-to-back spread out over the last month. Like I think they had 2 or 3 from the end of February. Maybe 3 left from the end of February to the season. And
so their back-to-back was Boston and Toronto, and before that it was let's see. Before that it was Houston and Memphis. That was the second.
Houston, Memphis. Yep. Okay, that's another one. I'm forgetting the other one they had in March, right? But it felt like Mitch was a little fresher, a little spry. This is what you want, because in the playoffs you don't have these back-to-backs. And we saw the impact last year of what he could do in the playoffs. The thing with Mitch is, and I'm knocking on wood, Knicks fans, gotta stay healthy through this playoff. The value is there. I love what Mitch brings to the team, despite his limitations offensively. I wish he shot free throws a little bit better, but you know you can't have everything. So look, listen, it really comes down to like how you're gonna have the team, what percentage of the cap he's gonna take. There's so much. We got a long way to go before we get to the offseason. Well, hopefully we have a long way to go. Hopefully we have a long way to go.
Hopefully we have a long way to go, indeed. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you for tuning for another Knicks Weekly, episode 153. With me on this side is my guy, Dexter Henry. Make sure you go check him out at the New York Post. All right. So with all that being said, Dexter, all that being said, what we like, dislike, grievances, this, that, and the third, how would you grade this season? How would you grade it?
Look, you're 53-29. It's very good. The process was good at what you got to getting yourself to a top 10. You have a top 10 defense, top 10 offense. I got to give it a B+. I got to give the season a B plus. I was almost going to give it a B. I gave it a little bit more of a B plus because the reason I got to a plus is because I liked how things were looking at the end of the process. So I'm going to say that I liked some of the things we saw at the end of the year, two-man game with Brunson and Cat. I give a huge, huge, huge credit to the defense improving from January on. I think the defense has gotten to a point where it's like, okay, it's not great, but it's very good, and I could trust it. I think it's at least at the level of winning a championship if they really lock in. So I'm going to give it a B plus, and then I think the other reason I give it a B plus is part of what I talked about earlier. It's the way Mike Brown managed the roster. I think that matters a ton. How you manage the roster through the regular season is huge. You know, okay, so somebody might say to me, well, Dex, what gives it higher marks? Well, obviously more wins. We've given the Knicks higher marks. You know, I think if they got to 60, that's when you're talking about A territory. I don't think they're quite there yet. I think if you had a better showing against the Pistons through the regular season, that also might have had you in the A territory. But you look at the Knicks' record against above 500 teams, which is very good. They're in a much better place than they were last year against that. They've handled their business mostly against the below 500 teams. Their playoff resume is good. This is a good team, good playoff resume. The metrics are good, where they are in defensive rating, where they are in offensive rating, top 10 in both. I still think there's a way this offense could be even better. But I think considering what I call the season as a roller coaster, to come out and then say B plus, I think is pretty solid in terms of where they are right now heading into the playoffs. So yeah, I was initially about to say B, and then I was like, you know what? I think where I want to give them some extra marks is how the defense turned around and how Mike Brown managed this roster to prepare them for the playoffs, because I do believe that they are prepared for the playoffs, Alex. And so yeah, I think his job was to have this team more ready and more flexible for the playoffs than they were a year ago. And I think that job has been accomplished. But the real test, because this is just the regular season test, this is like the practice test you used to have in school. The real test is now. This is where all the players and Mike Brown are going to be judged at. That's the real grade that matters. But I give him a B plus for the regular season.
All right, you're talking about you're saying this is the PSATs.
PSATs, remember PSATs?
Oh my goodness gracious! I hate
PSATs.
Going into like, my mom was like, typical Caribbean mother. You gotta get ready for the SATs, so go do some PSAT work this summer.
Yeah, I know that. I did some PSAT. My mom made sure I did a Caribbean household too. My mom made me do some PSAT prep, so
I was like,
I remember
what
that.
is this, man? Like I'm in school during the summer. It is hot. I'm like, can I just be home, be outside? Put up some hoops. Can I be doing something other than this? But I digress. Oh, what a time.
What a time.
But I'm gonna give it a B, man. And
Oh, B, okay.
I'm gonna give it a B. And I like a lot of what you said, especially with the flexibility of what Mike Brown did. The Knicks fighting through adversity. I think where I really lean at for like giving it the grade is that I always said I needed to see this team be top 10 offense, defense. Shout out to my guy Law Murray, who does a great job covering the Clippers, man, for the Athletic.
Shout out to Law. Shout out to
Yeah,
Law.
man. He last season he talks about this article, like teams that won the chip, they had to be top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. And the Knicks are there. The Knicks are there.
Yep.
They can do that. I think what holds me back from giving them even a B plus is the inconsistency that I saw this season. Now, even
Fair.
though we talked about earlier in the show saying, hey, Mike Brown is holding some stuff back, we still saw some just disjointedness in this team that gives me a little bit of pause going into the postseason. Not necessarily with the first round matchup, but how you handle the second and the third round when you get to there. We gotta get through the first round first. I'm not gonna like count my chickens before they hatch. But when I'm watching them go through it, I'm like, all right, so you know what the principles are. We're like in March. You know what Mike Brown wants you to do. And we're kind of deviating away from that. What's going on here? Why are we deviating away from that? Why are we going back to relying more on Brunson hero ball in the fourth quarter? Why is it that we're not really maximizing Karl-Anthony Towns as an offensive guy? Why is it that Mikal Bridges is now in his own head? And I look at those things, even though it's nice to see them end strong, that middle part is like, I'd like to see them, even if you're not implementing all this stuff, play with a little bit more consistency, a little bit more determination. a little bit more heart during those moments, and that for me is what's going to give them the B. I would give them a B plus if they actually gave a little bit more during that season. I would say the last thing that really stops me from giving the B plus, because I think to your point, what really gets the A is like, yo, you get 60 plus wins, you're dominating. It is like you are head and shoulders above everybody else. That's when you start getting to A category. What would have given them the B plus for me is that if the offense didn't take a step back the way that it did, and
Mm.
that while the defense was going forward, because shout out to my guys on ESPN Radio up in Albany. Like when I go on their show, they're like, yo, we didn't get to the 40-20 mark. And I said to them, like, I don't really care about the 40-20 mark. That's not really like
I don't
my
either.
biggest measurement. It's more
Yeah.
so, as I already said, like, can you be top 10 in offensive defensive rating? And the Knicks got to that point where they were top. Like, I think they were 6 at the time in defensive rating, but their offense, it was during the same time at the beginning of the calendar year where it dropped from 3 to 7. And I'm like, well, that, we've seen the offensive highs for this team. We've seen it. Even when they're not like fully in it, it's like that's why I have to take a little step back for giving them a B plus. It's like I know what you can do offensively, and you kind of like you guys are teasing me at this point. Like I know what you can do. Why aren't you doing it?
So for me, it's funny. I had, and it's funny. It's something I had a little bit concerned, but then I felt better about the offense towards the end of the season. Um, I didn't mind to some degree the offense took a step back if it meant the defense had to get better, because I think if the defense never got to the top 10, Alex, because I'm a big believer in you, and it's just historically true. You look at all the NBA champions, and they're at least top 11 in offense and defense. We even saw this with the Denver Nuggets a couple years ago, 2023. The Denver Nuggets were a middle of the pack defensive team. They played much better defense in the second half of the year. They got themselves to be a top 11 defense, and then their defense was pretty good through the playoffs. It helps they had the best player in the world. I know that in Nikola Jokic, but it shows you they really got better there. And so I think if the process of it, not saying I understand what you're saying, because you're like, look, we've seen this offense be really good. But if the process took the defense taking a little, the defense getting the process, the defense getting better, took the offense taking a little bit of a hit just to get it to the point where it could be better, I'm fine with that. Now, I do think as we are in the postseason, the offense has to be top notch, because I think the Knicks defense, it's very good. I wouldn't call it elite. But I think if they're going to win, it's going to be with a very good defense, almost like Denver, and an elite offense. That offense has to be like top 3 clicking the way it was that we saw in the early parts of the season, the way we saw the offense humming during the NBA Cup run. I think that's what it's really going to take. The offense they've really got to hit their offensive ceiling. I don't think they've done that yet. I still think this team could be better offensively than we've actually even seen. So I'm with you. But if you would have told me, hey, this is what it took to get the defense better, because if you had asked me this in the middle of January when the defense looked trash, I was like, please, could this team defend? Could they get some stops? Right? Like, and then they showed you they could do that. If that's part of the process, I'm saying if that's part of the process, because Alex isn't wrong here. And then it ends up that this defense got better, and now they can get back to getting the offense up a little bit better. I'll be happy if that's part of the process and the journey. That'll be good. That'll be okay.
All right, well, I like this. This is why I like having you on, Dex. You balance out the show, man. You
I
balance
try, man.
everything
I
out.
try.
That's how it goes, man. That's why I love talking to you, man. I love talking Knicks with you. And yo,
Try.
people in the chat, let us know what you think, man. I see some people giving B's, B pluses. I see
saw B
81
plus
out
in
of
the
someone
chat,
giving
too.
B minus. My God.
I think I had the season at a B minus at the middle point of the season. I remember me and Steph did an episode on that. I think we both had it. I think Steph might have been a little harsher than me, but I think we had it. I think I had him at a B minus where the season was.
Wow.
Yeah. That was at the halfway point.
Well, I understand the halfway point, but right now it's a B minus. Whew. Interesting.
Yeah.
Let us know what you
Tough
know.
graders out here,
man. Chat, though, man. Let us know in the comment section. Let us know in the chat. What are you giving the grade for the season right now? If you want to give us a call in to talk about any of the topics that we just did right now, feel free to hop in on the Discord. We'll pull you up. We'll get your takes in. So let's do that. All right. Wise Guy's giving a B plus. Shout out to Wise Guy. Hey, shout out to the Rhyme Animal once again for for dropping in a super chat, $20 super chat that is, and for being a franchise channel member. Says the last 2 seasons of facing Rick Carlisle diabolical plans, Knicks ready for anything. Body. Mike Brown has his biggest challenge. He passed tests so far. I feel there's going to be a major fist fight versus Atlanta. Yep. Salutes Alex and Dex. Hey,
Oh,
that A minus. Oh, A minus from G5 from the Bronx. Right? A minus only because we didn't get top 2 seeds. Okay. I see a lot of B pluses in here. I see a lot of people agreeing with you, Dex. B plus.
I like the B plus grade. Shout out to Chuck. Chuck, thank you. I'm loving the magazines. I've been getting them. Just want to let you know. I haven't texted Chuck in a while. Thank you for the magazines. They're dope. I appreciate them.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
And yeah, no, I mean, look, man, I think Chuck's on to something there too, though. Nobody, Knicks. Listen, all Knicks Nation knows this. You know this, Alex. All Knicks fans and Knicks Nation is happy they don't got to see the Pacers in the playoffs this year. You guys are sick of seeing the Pacers, sick of Rick Carlisle. One of the things I do respect about Rick Carlisle that I think Chuck is alluding to there is that he is in the Eastern Conference. I think the coach is the most malleable. He will change things up. He's going to go 10 deep. He's going to throw a guy, Tony Bradley, for 3 minutes. He doesn't care. He's going to give you different looks. I've respected that about that team. I've liked that about that team. I think Chuck's right in the fact that the Knicks have seen these things from their battles with the Pacers. This is a team that has been battle tested. I think they're really ready for this playoffs. I really do. Which is why, and I'm sure we'll get to this, I think it's imperative, Alex. The Knicks do not play with their food. Game 1 on Saturday night against Atlanta. You got to take care of business at home.
Man, we got to have these conversations. Playing with the food. We know what they like to do, man. We know what they like to do.
There's no time to play with the food this year. Can't be playing with the food this year is what I'm saying. Can't do that. Can't do that.
No time to be playing with your food whatsoever. And look, whether it's on the court or off the court, you should never be playing with your food. And look, even when it comes to making big purchases like cars, you should never be playing with your food. And so let me talk about car gurus, man, because that's where they come in to help you. And when you're looking to buy a new car, it's a big decision. You shouldn't go out there all willy-nilly about it. As Dex has been saying, don't play with your food, man. This is a big investment. You can't be like, maybe I like this. Maybe you can overspend. No. You got to know what you want, all right? You don't want to feel rushed, confused, or second-guessing yourself, especially with prices being what they are right now. That's why you got to mess with car gurus. What I love is how simple they make the whole process. With Car Gurus Discover, you can skip all those annoying filters and just search the way you actually think. You tell it what you want, maybe good gas mileage for road trips, extra trunk space for the family, or something comfortable for that daily commute. And it shows you real shoppable listings that actually match. That is what we call a game changer. And if you're at a dealership, the Car Guru app has this feature called Dealership Mode. It's basically a cheat code. And let me tell you why. Because you can compare the car right in front of you to all the similar options and check deal ratings, see the price history, and even estimate your final cost all on the spot. That's confidence right there. With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has one of the biggest selections out there. So you know you're seeing real options and real deals. No wonder it's the #1 most visited car shopping site. So whether you're buying or selling, don't guess. Make your big deal the best deal. Go to cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com. All right. And let them know that KFTV sent you. All right. Let's wrap this thing up, Dex. Let's get to what the people are waiting for at this point. We got a postseason. Knicks are back in it. All right. 4 seasons in a row. All right. 5 out of the last 6. And who do we get but a rematch with the Atlanta Hawks? Now, these teams are totally different. Totally different. We don't got Trae Young on the other side, so I better not be hearing no family show Trae Young in the garden. None of that. We're past that. Find a corny when we're not even playing him.
Are people past that?
I hope that. They're probably not, to be honest with you, man.
There's got to be people chanting that outside the garden. You know,
they're probably not past that, just like Bing Bong, but it's like we got to be past some things, all right, man? We got to be past some things at this point, all right? And those are 2 of them. Nevertheless, look, 2 totally different teams. When they first faced, we're talking about Alfred Payton, Reggie Bullock, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, Noel going against Trae Young and the guys. None of those guys are on this team anymore, all right? It is Jalen Johnson for the Atlanta Hawks now. That's the face of their franchise, going against the face of our franchise, none other than Jalen Brunson. And it should be a good matchup, man. And you're talking about not playing with your food. They can certainly not do this. Hawks have been a tough team. They've done a great job. Quinn Snyder won Coach of the Month not too long ago. I think it was in March to be exact. And the way that the Hawks have been playing, especially with the rise of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is, the favorite now to win the most improved player, you got to watch out, especially with Jalen Johnson. And we saw how tough they played against the Knicks not too long ago either. So even though the Knicks squeaked out a win in that one, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it was a good test to see what the Hawks like to do. And for the Knicks, it's got to take it seriously because this team, similar to the Pacers, likes to run and get up and down the court with their youth and their athleticism. I'll say the one big difference for me that I see in this matchup is that, unlike the Pacers who have a Halliburton and who he understands how to like shapeshift the court and knows when to take shots and who would get the shots to, they don't have a closer as well as not having a big man or a really reliable, like consistent playmaker. I know they got CJ McCollum, but I don't really look at him as like a true point. I feel like for them, it's just like it's playmaker by committee. So I think between having a playmaker by committee and not having a legitimate center, it does play in favor for the Knicks. But what are your feelings about the Hawks in the first round matchup?
Oh, my feelings with the Hawks is look, it's like you said, it's a much different team than the Hawks team they played back in 21. It's a much different team from the Hawks team they even played the last couple of years. I think this team has actually been better for trading Trey Young. I think they're a little bit more versatile on the defensive end. They've got waves of defenders they could send at you. I think one of the keys when I look at this series for the Knicks in terms of defense is how they're going to defend the 3-point line. The Hawks can take a lot of threes. They're gonna hunt those threes. The Knicks, since the All Star break, I think they've given up I was looking at this up earlier, the fifth most corner threes in the league. So corner threes are going to be huge in this game. We know the Knicks shoot the ball well from the corner threes, but how they defend it is going to be extremely important. So guarding the 3-point line is huge for me for the Knicks in the series. They're going to have to be very disciplined on the perimeter. They're really going to have to do that. But I think the advantages are a lot of what you said, Alex. One big advantage the Knicks have in the series, and this keyword, folks, is should. Should. This should be a Karl-Anthony Towns series. He should dominate because I don't think the Hawks have anybody that can handle them. They don't. There's no true center they want to put on him to handle him at all whatsoever. We saw in that last matchup a week ago, we saw Onyeka Okongwu on him. He had nothing for Cat. I don't think anybody on his team has anything for Cat. Now, again, I still think the Knicks have to stick to their process. There's still going to be more of what we talked about. Cat at the top of the key, a lot of DHO action, a lot of handoffs. He gets it back, a lot of two-man game with him and Brunson, understanding when he needs to roll to the rim, playing under control, finishing strong, sometimes giving it back to Brunson or looking for other guys and being that sort of hub. That's going to be necessary. There are many ways for Cat to affect this game. Guys, he does not always have to take 18 to 20 shots. He could have a game like he did against Atlanta. He was 9 of 12 in that game. He took 12 shots. You know what the impressive part of that game to me was, Alex? Cat was amazing with the passing. I believe he had 6 assists and 1 turnover in that last game against Atlanta. And the interior passing was particularly really good. So to me, if Cat is making the right play, doing well, I think that's a huge advantage for the Knicks, right? The other thing is, I think the advantage the Knicks have is the Knicks have the best player in the series. The Knicks also have the best closer in the series. That is obviously Jalen Brunson. I don't think Jalen Brunson is going to have to overdo it and do too much. I think he's got to play the way he did in that game last week. Not all the time. There's going to be times where you need Jalen Brunson to do hero ball down the stretch, and he did that in that game. And that was a game where he didn't shoot the ball well early. But if you look at how he closed late, and because early he was trusting everybody, and the Knicks were moving the ball around, and Cat was getting shots. Mikal Bridges was really good in that first half. I think Jalen Brunson, if he doesn't have to do too much early and other guys are doing their job, he's going to have the ability to close the game late. Who are you closing with if you're the Hawks? Now, all of us may look at this and say Jalen Johnson, probably the best player. But do you trust him to be a closer in a playoff series yet? I'm not so sure about that. CJ McCollum has played in a lot of big playoff games. He's hit big shots. We know how he is, and he can be big time. But I don't
hit
think
a big shot to tie that thing. Take it to
yeah,
OT.
that's true. What did you do when that happened? I didn't. I don't think I turned you
Man.
guys on that night. But what did you do when that happened?
Oh my God! So it was funny because CP mentioned it, which is hilarious because I saw that shot go in. I didn't know if he made it. I was like, "Are you serious right now? Like, are we actually about to do this?" I was like,
That was
"You
me.
cannot." Because here's the thing, man. If that thing had to go into OT, which way that game could have gone, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the Knicks were dominating that entire game. It was neck and neck the entire time. So like, uh, for me, I was just like, thank God that did not count. Game over. Go home. Thank God you got the win. Learn what you did from this one because you may had at that point I was like, you may have to face them again. Learn from this one and get better from that. And thankfully, like you had a good opportunity to learn and know what they like.
You did. I think there's a lot the Knicks learned in that game. I think there's a lot the fans learned in that game. I think there's a lot of us that covered the team learned in that game. Against the Hawks, yeah, you're right. Sometimes that gets lost in the talk that CJ McCollum was a tenth of a second away from tying this thing up with a crazy shot. But yeah, I like the process with the Knicks in that game. I liked how even when they got down, the Hawks made their run on the road. They came back. The 2-man game with Cat was great. Cat and Brunson was great. I think that's a huge job. I think Josh Hart throughout the playoffs is going to be huge, but I think in this series is going to be huge. Um, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm very intrigued to see how Atlanta guards Cat to start this series. Are they going to stick with Okongwu? Are they going to move Okongwu onto Hart and try to see if they can get Cat to get back to his old ways and maybe get fouls on smaller guys? Does Atlanta try to give a different look? I think regardless, if Cat's playing within himself the way we've seen from him post All-Star break, then I think the Knicks are going to be just fine in this series. Um, Atlanta presents challenges. I think there are going to be some games in the series that are going to be tough. I do not think this will be a walk in the park the way we assumed it would be against Toronto, because I don't think Toronto had anything for the Knicks. But I also don't think this, Alex, I don't think this may be as hard as some other people think as well, too. I think the Knicks are the better team. I think they're the more balanced team. They're the more experienced team. They're the more talented team. I know that's on paper. You got to go play the games. But yeah, I like the Knicks to win this series. I do.
I like the Knicks to win this series too, man.
How many games you going?
I think they can get it done in 5.
That's my pick. Knicks in 5.
I would say, but this is where we talk about earlier, where you mentioned don't play with your food because if they do play with their food, this thing can go 6, as we saw, and they did. That was probably my biggest issue with them last year against the Pistons and the Celtics is that you could have ended both those series in 5, and you were
Mm-hmm.
just like you got too comfortable, you guys got a little too cocky, and now look at the situation you put yourself in. Now you extended yourself 2 extra games where you didn't need to extend yourself. In this matchup, where you're looking at Boston next. And that's a whole other conversation for if they do get there. I do believe the Knicks can beat the Hawks. I do think they can get them down, take them down in 5. I think it won't be an easy 5. I think these will be very close games. That's the one thing because I do think that even though Cat and Brunson can have their way, I think the way that Atlanta just creates turnovers and thrives off of turnovers will get to the Knicks, especially if they're not on their A game with protecting the basketball. And we've seen through this season that they can be on their A game and really limit the
Mm-hmm.
turnovers and keep it in single digits. But at times
Yep.
they try to be a little too cute, a little too creative. And next thing you know, you're just getting these errant passes that are like, why are you trying to do that? You're trying too hard and making something more complicated than it needs to be. So look, Atlanta's very good when it comes to points off of turnovers. They're third in the league right now.
Yep.
If you look at that stat. So I would say if the Knicks can limit their turnovers and then, as you point out earlier, guard the 3, because the Hawks, here's the thing. Knicks are really good at defending the corner 3. Not all of
Really
the
good.
threes.
Yeah.
They're good at defending the corner 3.
Yeah.
The
Not the
Hawks,
above the break threes.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
not the above the break. The Hawks will have to take the above the break 3s, and that's where
They
they
love it.
thrive.
They love
And
it.
so the Knicks got to be ready for that because that's how they were in that game too. Nikhil Alexander-Walker coming down, pull it up. So they got to be ready for that matchup too. But I think the Knicks can get it done. I do like this matchup. Obviously, I would have preferred Toronto. Probably would have been a little bit more
Yeah, I
of
understand that.
a cakewalk. But I'll say this too. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's better sometimes as well where you don't get the cakewalk because sometimes you can enter that matchup being a little overconfident and then getting punched in the mouth the way you don't want to. Now
Mm-hmm.
you got to come into a series a little bit more prepped, a little bit more serious, just because. Look, Atlanta did keep up with you that last game. You could think about what you did at the beginning of the season to this team. It's a completely different team now, and so you got to game plan differently, be a little more strategic in how you attack this team because it is a different look team. So
I also think
I still like it.
I also think, Alex, sometimes a series like this, I think the way this team likes to shoot the three, and we know the Knicks struggles with guarding threes above the break. I think this series can prepare you for the next one. Possibly, if it's Boston.
Yeah.
Boston takes care of their business. I think it's one of those that can just, maybe sometimes you want. I think fans sometimes want the easiest path, but you want the right path that is going to test you just enough and keep you on your game and ready for the next series. And this, I thought that happened last year with the Knicks with Detroit, and I think that had them ready for Boston. And I wonder if this is sort of the same with Atlanta. I think Atlanta is going to be scrappy, feisty. We know how they like to play. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to test the Knicks. The Knicks are going to have to be on their mark if they can make it to Boston and play Boston. And Boston makes it there too in guarding the three-pointers. So maybe this is a good series to prep them for the next series. I'm not trying to look far ahead. I'm going to get on my coat speak one game at a time, one series at a time, one possession at a time, all that good stuff.
On
But
to Atlanta.
but yeah, Atlanta game one, don't play with your food because, unfortunately, I will not be able to be in the building with you guys at Slate on Saturday. But I'll tell you what, they don't the Knicks don't get off to a good start at Slate on Saturday. All the KFTV fans up in there are gonna be like, they're gonna be throwing their drinks. Don't throw your drinks. Not saying that, don't throw your drinks. But they're gonna be frustrated and what's going on. Yeah, don't do that. Slate is a great place. We don't we want
We
to
like
come
to keep
back.
our relationship with Slate. All right, so let's not ruin that.
Let's not do that. It's a fantastic establishment, and the fans act well. You might feel like you want to throw your drink, is what I'm saying, and you are going to be frustrated. And I think it's going to be imperative in game one and even two at home to send a message that this team is not on your level. That doesn't mean there won't be points in the game is close, but if you can put them away, show them a little bit early, you got to fight back, and you put them away late, that's a good win to me. When you have your chance
Absolutely.
to put your foot on the throat of the Hawks, you got to do it and put them away. And I think the Knicks have to show that killer instinct early in round one. Don't give the Hawks any hope. My shout out to my boy Anthony. He was texting me today about the series, and he's like, "Yo, can't give the Hawks any hope." And I agree. You can't give them any hope at all whatsoever. You got to really, if once they're gonna fight. I'm respecting the Hawks, but I think you gotta bring it to them if when they bring it to you, and not give them any hope. Especially at home, especially at the Garden.
Especially at home, man. You got home court advantage. You got to take advantage of home court. And look, the good thing is that the Knicks have been doing a very good job at protecting home court.
They have.
To your last point, before we take this call from CharlieKnicks, who's waiting to get his take off.
Yes.
Uh, you said something very important. This team needs the opponent to level up, and that's why I don't believe this team has a switch. I think this team has to level up. I think this team has to.
Hmm.
That's why I was saying, like, people are like, oh, they can flip a switch, they'll be great. I don't think that's how they go. I think, as you point out, last year Detroit got them ready for Boston. I think that's how they have to go through some of these tougher matchups in order to get ready for where they need to go. To your point,
Sure.
so you got to have the right path, as you said, man. I do like that. I do agree with that. I think that's a well way to put it. But let's get to this call, man. We got CharlieKnicks on the line, who's been waiting. What's going on, Charlie? How you feeling?
Gentlemen, good evening. It's my first time calling in. How you doing, Alex? How you doing, Dexter?
What's
Welcome. Well,
good?
welcome, man. The stage is yours. We're doing great, man. How are you feeling? You ready for the postseason?
Oh man, I'm beyond excited, man. I've been 82 games locked in. I'm for sure excited. Can't wait for this playoffs to finally kick off.
Let's go, man. Let's go. So,
Let's
what do you
go.
got, man? What do you got? What do you got for us? You got any questions? You got your takes about the postseason. What are you thinking?
Oh man, it's so funny. I watch you guys consistently, and I always have a list of things that I'm like, man, I want to talk about these things, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know what to talk about. No, but
It's all
in
good,
all
man. It's all good.
seriousness, let's I think one thing I definitely want to point out is consistency being the biggest things that the Knicks have been struggling with all season. I think that's probably something everybody could agree with. That's been the most frustrating because I mean, when these guys are on game, all locked in, when the ball is flying, everybody's on pace. This team is top five, arguably top three, however you want to call it. But I mean, when that consistently inconsistency hits, and I mean, especially during that January stretch, that was just very rough. But I think we're very solid. I have no fear against anybody. I'm not trying to look for an easy path at all. I think you guys had hit it on the mark, saying that each playoff round definitely will prepare us for the next one. And I definitely believe that, especially coming from last season, that Detroit first round was so stressful. But I think that was perfect, a perfect boost for us for the second round. So that's how I'm feeling.
What's
Awesome.
your
Appreciate
prediction?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What is your prediction, Charlie? What do you think is going to happen between this one?
Against Atlanta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Again, with the inconsistency, I would love for it to be a sweep. Gentleman's sweep. I think it's still a little out there. I think it might go Knicks in six for sure. As long as we don't play play with our food like we've been saying, it gets pretty tricky. And honestly, that kid could ball, man. Shea's cousin. Oh my goodness, I'm very surprised with his performance this season. He's really upcoming.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Appreciate the call, Charlie. Appreciate you. Great. Chuck's giving you a 5-star, man. Give you 5 stars for your first call, man.
I
Good stuff,
appreciate
man.
it. Oh, if I could give a quick shout out, man. Shout out Cody Glock, man. He always has me cracking up, man. He's a good man. Shout out CP. Hopefully, when I call in again, I definitely could chat it up with you guys again for sure.
Absolutely, man. Call back anytime. Call back
Peace,
anytime.
Charlie.
Appreciate
Have a
you,
good one,
brothers.
Charlie.
Good night.
And that was CharlieKnicks, man. CharlieKnicks making his debut. Shout out to CharlieKnicks, man. Yeah, Chuck's
Nice.
giving the 5. Rate that call in the chat, man. 5 being facts, 1 being trash. Let us know what you thought about Charlie's call. I thought that was a good call, man.
That was a good call, man. I thought it
Yeah.
was a good call. Shout out to Charlie. Good call.
Yeah, look, man, this team is very inconsistent. He's saying Knicks in 6, not being overly aggressive, as Dex and I are here. All right. But
I was being overly aggressive. I would have picked this. I would have picked the sweep. I'm not gonna go there yet. Yeah, Knicks in 5. I'm sticking with it. Knicks in 5.
I'm
I
sticking
thought
with
about
Knicks in
switching.
5 too.
I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it.
They're good. This is the thing, man. This is where it's like they're good. This is a really like it's so funny because everyone's asking me like, how do you feel about this team? Like even being out here and being down, I was like, how do you feel about your Knicks? I'm like, oh, this is a very talented team, man. They can go all the way. They're like, do you think? Like they're like, do you know that they can go all the way? I'm like, they got to prove that, man. I can't tell you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's no way, man. Like, and then that goes with the inconsistency. That's why though.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of us who like. There's a world in which could the Knicks lose in the second round? Sure. Could they get to the finals? Sure. If the right matchup,
Absolutely.
could they win it all? Sure. I think all that's possible. Look, I hope they don't lose in the second round. It'll be very disappointed. It'll be a very interesting offseason. But I think this team is really talented. I like the term you used, Alex. I really have hated I don't believe in teams flipping the switch. I'm not somebody who believes in that. But I do think, like you said, I think you can level up. And I think that this team at times got bored during the regular season. And I understand it's a veteran team. They're waiting to get back to the playoffs. But now's their time. They gotta show us. They gotta show us. They gotta pop out and show us. And so hopefully we see that starting with game 1.
Hopefully we do, man. Hopefully we do see that starting game 1 against the Atlanta Hawks. And I think this is a good place to end it, Dex. Appreciate you for always coming through, my man. Always
No, man,
appreciate you
it's
coming
good.
through.
Thank you for having me. As always, appreciate all the Knicks fans, the KFTV fans, everything y'all do. You, JD, CP, CK, whole crew. It's always love for you guys. So thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you having me on, man. And hopefully it's a fun playoff ride. I know I'll have you back on your Got Game soon. We'll be talking some hoops soon. So I know that for sure.
No doubt, man. Let the people know what you got coming on, man. What you got going on, Dex. If you got anything to plug right now.
Yeah, I teased something. Me and CP will be recording something tomorrow. That should be out Wednesday for the people. A playoff preview with another special guest. And we have a film breakdown coming for people later in the week. That should drop on Thursday, where we're going to break down some of the strategies with the Knicks and the Hawks, maybe also what the minutes can look like. Myself and Brian Fonseca will do that. And then Saturday, we're debating whether we're going to do a watch party or a post-game show, but either one we'll be doing that. We'll be doing something live on Saturday. We'll be live, either with post-game shows or watch parties along through the playoffs, so we'll have some special guests. So that should be fun. That's the plan for New York Games. Busy times, Alex, but I like it, man. I love this time of year, man. I love it, love it, love it, love it. It's no better time in New York.
Man. Love it. Weather's changing. It's nice outside. People starting to act crazy. So stay in your lane. Don't act too crazy. That's
don't
nice
get too
outside,
crazy.
man.
You know how it is when the weather gets hot. I'm gonna get it. Be good. Be safe, man. Be safe to all the Knicks fans out there. Enjoy the wins. Celebrate responsibly. Be safe. That's all we want.
Exactly, man. Gotta stay safe. And appreciate everybody for coming through once again, man. Shout out to you, Dex, for coming through. Make sure you go support Dex. Follow him on all social media platforms. You can find his handle down below, right below the camera. And you can catch him on New York Post. He does a phenomenal job over there. New York got game, as he mentioned, man. If you're a Mets fan, Liberty fan, he does a phenomenal job covering them as well. So make sure to stay tapped in and locked in for everything that Dex does. And for you, make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, okay? Make sure to stay locked into this channel this week. We are going into overdrive, people, all right? We're going to be, you already know we're the CNN of Knicks, all right? So, we're going into overdrive at this point, okay? We're going into overdrive. There will be a game of the week preview this week. CP is getting guests on. He's got guests lined up. He's going to be bringing people back on, all right? Collabing with Dex, as Dex already said with the show. So make sure to stay tapped in with what KFTV is doing this week. We're going to get you prepared and ready to go, okay? Prepared and ready to go. And hey, I can tell you this right now. Slate is going to be popping this Saturday. We're going to get you the times later this week, but make sure to stay on alert. It will be at Slate for the first watch party. Knicks taking on the Hawks this Saturday. So make sure to stay prepared and locked in for that, okay? And look, guys, support. If you don't want to, if you can't support, you can't make it out, do anything like that, there's other ways to do it. It's free to subscribe to this channel. You can follow us on any audio listening platform, Apple, Spotify. You can come through there as well. And make sure to support our newsletter. We got great writers doing phenomenal work. So if you want even more coverage on the Knicks in a written format, straight to your email inbox. You don't gotta go doing the whole Google search for a website anymore. It comes straight to you. Just go over to Beehive. You can go find the KnicksFanTV newsletter. Get it in the inbox every day. You get your Remy's recaps. Omar doing deep dives on Legacy. You got Jeff with his game check-ins after every single after every 10 games. He's checking in on the Knicks. So you can go find anything that you want over there. A lot of great coverage. On top of that, it'll give you updates about this channel. It'll give you updates about watch parties and our sponsors. So it's a good reason to go sign up for the newsletter. And speaking about our sponsors, make sure to support Harry's. Go to harrys.com/KFTV to go get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10. And make sure to go to cargurus.com and let them know that KFTV sent you if you're going to go buy a car. Salute to all the franchise channel members. Appreciate you all for coming through. Shout out to all the mods. And we'll catch you on the next one. So make sure to stay locked in, people. We out.
Peace.